Good afternoon, class. My name is John Ozier. Today is Wednesday, August 12, 2015, and this is the System of Counseling 1 class, where Professor Russell Hobbs is the instructor. This is week 6, and this is my professional counselor presentation, where I conduct an informal interview with a professional counselor and share the results of the interview with you via video. Elder Jim, an associate pastor at our church, who has practiced biblical counseling there for 9 years, is the individual I selected to be a local counselor to interview for this project. I informed Elder Jim that I represented Lancaster Bible College as a student in a Systems of Counseling class, and I have the inspiration to become a biblical counselor. With this, Elder Jim received me with a smile of delight and a reception of warmness that remained throughout the interview because he knows my success will eventually be a valuable asset to the church. Therefore, his eagerness to share what he had also throughout his eagerness to share showed throughout the interview. I informed him also that the responses would be shared through me with other students as well as my professor and instructor of the class via video. The following are the responses to questions Elder Jim agreed to share with me as well as you. Elder Jim informed me that ever since he has been saved that he wanted in some way to be a blessing to others as someone had been to him by leading him back to Christ. It was during the time he was training to be a minister that the instructor, who was brought in from the outside of the church to train ministers, was he then aspired to become a biblical counselor. The instructor told the class of would-be ministers of his credentials and that he was a certified Christian counselor with a PhD in pastoral counseling. It was after this session of training that Elder Jim asked the instructor about how to get into biblical counseling because his desire since being saved was helping others with problems, struggles, or issues in their lives as someone had did with him. Elder Jim said he felt in his heart that this was what God wanted him to do after the instructor explained step by step of what he needed to do. Elder Jim stated that he originally thought being in the ministry would fulfill his desire to help others, but believes that God led him to the instructor through the ministry training, and now all he had to do was be obedient to the call. Elder Jim had some credit hours at a local community college, transferred to the St. Louis Christian College, where he studied Christian ministry and night classes, and soon had his associate's degree, and later a bachelor's degree in Christian counseling. As of now, Elder Jim has a Master's of Divinity degree in Christian counseling and is a certified member of the American Association of Christian Counselors. Elder Jim is 53 years old and has been a member of the Believers Temple Word Fellowship Church in Ferguson, Missouri since 1997. He rededicated his life to Christ in 1995 at the Hopewell Baptist Church in St. Louis, Missouri, after falling away from Christ in his teen years when he was introduced to alcohol and drugs. He believes now that Jesus Christ was and is the only way to salvation, and now also substance abuse counseling, where he emphasizes how Jesus is the only cure for substance abuse and not a step program he had been with previously, which previously failed him. Elder Jim was counseled by a substance abuse counselor whom he believed had great faith, and he was the inspiration he needed to be a substance abuse counselor, and why he has integrated theology into his biblical counseling. What Scripture has to say about every situation was the main factor that Elder Jim has integrated theology into his counseling. He states that after 9 years of counseling, there has not been an issue that he has been confronted with that he could not relate to Scripture. Another factor into tying theology with counseling was his victory over substance abuse. He states that if not for his faith and belief in Jesus, he would not be among the living today, and believes he is to use counseling as a platform to show how God worked in his life and can work in the lives of the individuals he may be counseling. Describing how he generally treated issues such as anxiety and depression was a challenging question for Elder Jim, and he stated that he normally started by asking the individual to describe their experience of depression in vivid detail because people are different. So depression comes in many shapes and sizes. Then he would try to identify the causes. He then described that depression many times is not just something we have, it is something we do. He says he invites the individuals to examine their own hearts with these questions. If your depression could speak, what would it say? What does it say about you, to others, to God? He states that depression is an active experience and can result from many sources other than that of the physical, such as guilt due to unconfessed sin, false guilt, misplaced shame, ungodly fears, suppressed bitterness or hatred, hopeless grieving, and unbiblical expectation. He then said he would advise Scripture and explain to the individual that the road out of depression is often by faith. For the first few weeks, he then said he would advise Scripture and explain to the individual that the road out of depression is often by faith for the first few weeks. And then he explained to me that depressed people who come to Christian leaders for help first must accept the challenge of faithful obedience, even though they do not feel like it, and are skeptical that anything will make a difference. He said also he would explain to them that progress out of the pit of depression is a step-by-step process, and that small, practical, consistent, faith-based change occurs in the details. When I asked him who in the Christian counseling field has impacted him the most, he counted with our pastor and bishop, for he still leans on him for advice when doing counseling. Although Elder Jim does not attend many conferences, as it is his duty to be responsible for the church when the bishop who attends many is not present, he has attended the American Association of Christian Counselors Conference in the past and in Nashville, Tennessee, and has already made his reservation for a conference that he attends yearly called the MegaFest Conference, a series of conferences that includes a variety of training, and that is to be later this month in Dallas. Elder Jim has other attributes and skills that will definitely help me in my biblical counseling journey that time did not permit me to interview him on, but stated he is willing to share with me as much as I feel I need to know and assist me with any forthcoming issues I may have in my journey to become a biblical counselor. Thank you, class, for your time, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you again.